Hello there, I'm here on a Monday morning at the UK Barbecue School, which is one of the places that I'm very fortunate enough to run sessions with families, with young people from, thanks to Marcus Bowden, the owner. And I want to talk a little bit about environments, because this is a great one for me. You know, I've got a lovely view there. It's outside, sort of, but with a roof, which is nice. A campfire there. And also, because it's a UK barbecue school, there's loads of toys everywhere to cook meat on, which is one of my many hobbies, obsessions, things I like to do, regulation tools. So it's perfect for me. And also, in terms of environment for sessions with the young people, I find that the calmness, the quietness, lack of people, having animals nearby, there's some pigs in there and goats over there, the fire, it all makes for much better conversation. There's also opportunities for background activities around the fire, cooking food, you know, that's a really good activity where the focus can be on something else rather than a invasive, pressured, questioning, conversational approach. And in terms of environments, for me, I think that's something, you know, over the years, last couple of decades working with families, often the way that they learn to manage the environment to suit their neurodivergent child or young person plays a really key factor in their later life success, happiness, you know, things like that. And also their general calmness in the home environment. But it's really difficult. And I think that one of the reasons it's really difficult, I'm a bit of a nerd for prehistory, and I think we forget sometimes that the modern environment we're in, there's nothing typical about it. If you think back, you know, human beings at best guess have been around for 350,000 years with basically the same brains, same bodies. And yet it's only really in the last 10,000 years we've had cities, permanent dwellings, we've lived in the same place, not kind of wandered the environment. I read something the other day that said in Britain, sort of the best estimate for population size, again, maybe 8 to 10,000 years ago, before the Neolithic, was less than 100,000 in the whole country. And now here we are, 10,000 years later, you know, a fraction of human development, and there's millions, you know, 60 million odd in the UK. So people are everywhere. The environment is much more busy, much more full for most humans. And so maybe those that struggle with that deal better in environments that have less people for a start, are more permanently on high alert, high arousal, their challenges are brought to the surface. That environment is now typical. To be in a classroom or a school as a child with 20, 30, 40 people in the same room, 100, 200, right up to maybe 1,000 plus in big secondary schools, that's typical, that's normal. I don't know if it is for the human brain. So, you know, in terms of neurodiversity and neurodivergence, the brain functioning that is neurodivergent is also dependent on that time in history maybe as well. Throw into that, in the last, say, couple of 100 years, the amount of extrasensory input that's come in terms of lighting, traffic noise, machinery noise, you know, these are just things we take for granted typically, but for loads of young people I've worked with, that's been a real trigger. So the other reason that I think environments are so important is, you know, I'm someone who likes to, as well as understand the challenges and empathise and try and comprehend the difficulties for neurodivergent children, even if I've not experienced all of those difficulties, I still think it's really important that we look for when things have worked, what has worked, what's helped someone get to adulthood and be successful. And that word can mean lots of things. I don't mean successful as in fits in with the norm and fits in with the typical. I mean successful in terms of they find a way to function happily in later life. And I think for me, where those success stories are is often to do with people that have found the right environments for them, whether that's amounts of people, types of people, clubs, hobbies, activities, all come under environment, I think, but also getting out in the countryside. And again, the difficulty for lots of neurodivergent children, I think, is the balance of the difficulty of the standard environment they're in brings them back to their bedroom, maybe a screen or a computer. That's their safe environment. So it's about balance for lots of parents. You've got to create that environment at home that maybe balances out the challenge that they're facing day to day when they go outside. That can sometimes mean shifting expectations socially. An example of that might be that the dining environment is often set out with a lot of expectations of the cultural society you're in. You sit at the table, eat off a plate, knives and forks, one meal, and then finish that, you get your pudding. All these kind of things that can be very dependent on your society and culture. There's also things that we might need to do in the home environment to create escape from sensory overload and overwhelm, including people in that as well, and our interaction in that as well. So maybe having an environment that doesn't have lots of unnatural lighting or lots of background noise, or actually creating environments where that person can explore the sensory input that they find regulating or helpful. So yeah, long and short of it, environments are very important. Now, there's a webinar this Wednesday, which I think is the 12th, if you're watching this, not today, which is Monday. Wednesday evening, 7 till 9:30, all on environments. So I'll be putting together all of my sort of thoughts and ideas around assessing an environment, generalised approaches you can think about for different labels, diagnoses, neurodivergences. They are general, and I don't, no two people are the same, no two people's sensory profile is the same, and therefore no two people's adjustment that is needed is the same. But there are some general directions we can go in. For example, I would argue that if you have an autistic or perhaps an ADHD young person who's spending a lot of time in a busy social environment, you might need to readdress that balance at home by reducing certain social interaction expectations. Questions when they get in the car, when you pick them up, how was your day, what did you do, all the sort of instinctive things we all do as parents. They may need to have some downtime after that event because they've spent so much energy trying to keep up. It's a general one, might not work for everyone, but we will also in that webinar look at more specific adjustments, how you can maybe think about your child's specific needs and what they struggle with and what their specific triggers are environmentally, and then adjust accordingly. So if you're interested in more of this, then check that out, and if you found just the video helpful, then share, comment, all the things, that helps. It's also available on the YouTube channel. Actually, I might just put it on the YouTube channel, so this will just be a link to the YouTube channel. So you're already on the YouTube channel, so subscribe to that as well, because I think that's a better place for longer form videos. Cheers.